everybody. We're here today to demonstrate deliberate practice in emotion-focused therapy. And this is based on a recently published book that has just come out called Deliberate Practice in Emotion-Focused Therapy. And that's written by myself and Alex Tony Roseman. Yeah. So today, Megan Emsley and Zoe Goldstein are going to help us to demonstrate how you do deliberate practice in emotion-focused therapy. And we're going to zero in on one particular skill, which is the empathic affirmation and validation skill. So the empathic affirmation and validation skill is one where the therapist offers the client a high degree of affirmation and validation, as it sounds, and basically communicates through their words that this is very understandable and that the therapist is there to support the client in this moment. And this is what we would do if we were doing this deliberate practice, is we'd make sure to highlight the skill criteria. So let me just say what they are. So first of all, therapist responses capture the depth and intensity of present experiencing of client. Therapist responses deepen and affirm, but do not speculate or push beyond client current experiencing, which is different than some of the other empathic responses. And therapist makes sure to use a soft, gentle, but affirming voice.
I would just highlight that the skill criteria are really the observable aspects we're wanting to get repeated practice during this exercise. So they're really the clues to guide you towards where you're trying to get at with the practice.
Okay, so now we're going to have, Zoe's going to play the client, and she's going to offer a prompt or a statement as a client might. And Megan is going to demonstrate offering an empathic affirmation. Okay. So when you guys are ready, I think you have the prompt. So go ahead, Zoe, you start.
I just can't believe the direction our country is taking right now. Watching the news makes me so angry.
Yeah, it sounds like it's really upsetting for you. Everything that's happening right now, it's really upsetting for you.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to actually ask you to just do that. Try it again. Same thing, try it again.
Okay.
And Megan, you can improvise as you see fit, right?
Okay.
So.
I just can't believe the direction our country is taking right now. Watching the news makes me so angry.
Yeah, I hear that you're feeling really angry, and there's just so much that's happening for you right now.
Okay. All right, good. How did that feel? Megan, how did that feel for you?
I feel like the second time I understood a bit more that feeling of anger. I think seeing it again and like kind of channeling into that piece of that upsetness for Zoe helped doing it the second time. Okay.
So you feel like you were able to sort of almost like be more present the second time with the emotional tone behind what she was saying?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay. Yeah, because I agree. I mean, I think the first time was a little bit more kind of rote, and then like the second time had more of you behind it, more of your presence, and your voice softened a little bit and slowed down a little bit too. So that's really good. All right, so let's try another one, another client prompt.
I accidentally hit a pedestrian while driving the other day. The weather was bad and the sun was in my eyes, so I couldn't see him, and he was taken to the hospital with broken bones, and I feel so guilty.
It sounds like it was really hard for you. It sounds like there was a lot going on. Now you're having all these feelings, all these things that happened to you.
Okay, great. Okay, take a breath. And actually just if you don't mind, do the same thing again. Zoe, you play client. Megan, you're the therapist.
So I accidentally hit a pedestrian while driving the other day, and the weather was bad and the sun was in my eyes, so I just couldn't see him, and he was taken to the hospital with broken bones, and I feel so guilty.
Yeah, I'm picking up on this sense of guilt, and it seems like things were kind of out of control for you in that moment.
Okay. So, okay, again, so let me ask you, Megan, how does it feel? How do you feel between the first and the second time?
Yeah, I definitely felt like, as you were saying in the first one, more present with kind of that emotion that Zoe was presenting, and feeling that sense of like, it seemed really overwhelming for her in that moment with the guilt. So I think I could attune to that a bit more.
Okay, the second time around, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And I think even the first time around, I feel like you were more present, right? And you know, Zoe, you were different too, like between the first and the second one. Were you aware of it?
Yeah, every time I do the second one, I'm always trying to like insert myself more and be more genuine. So I'm like, okay, what would I actually say? Like, would I say so here? Or so I was trying that out.
Okay. And then that in turn makes it a little bit easier, I think, for you, Megan, to kind of zero in on what Zoe's really feeling, right? And pick up on that.
Yeah, that more authentic piece is like easier for me to attune to.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And I think like I experienced you also in the last couple of responses, I've experienced you, Megan, as like very present and very attentive. And then it's just a matter of maybe softening your voice a little bit.
Okay.
And that's okay. So
I want to state to the viewers, to our esteemed viewers, that what Rhonda, Megan, and Zoe are so expertly showing here is that there's a bit of a difference in what we're doing here than most traditional training, right? One thing you might have picked up on already is the issue of repetition. Instead of doing a free-form role play where a client says something, therapist responds, client responds back, we're really putting the micro and micro skills training here, where we're just doing isolated client prompts or statements, right? And many different ones so that the therapist can get a wide range of statements from which to respond to, focused always on the same skill. So instead of going off in different directions as a normal role play would, right, which is super helpful as another type of training, this is a different aspect where we're really honing in this particular skill, right?
Right. Okay. And so, yeah, everything that Alex said, and we would do this for a while. We would focus on one particular skill so that the person really learns that skill and kind of immerses themselves in that very fully. And also the idea of rehearsal is to try to make it feel more rote or more natural for the person to be able to pick it up in the moment when they need it. And then in the book, we also have a section where we blend these all together. So we give you an actual transcript of a real client, and we demonstrate how these different types of empathic responses are actually done and integrated into an actual therapy. And you get to see, this is just one of the skills, it's empathic affirmation, but you get to see how that operates in the context of a real dialogue, client-therapist dialogue, and how you might use empathic affirmation and blend it with the use of other types of empathic responses and other types of EFT therapist responses as well. So we just want to give it a bigger context. So, okay, so I think what we want to do now is we're going to demonstrate a difficulty adjustment. And Alex, you're going to show how one would do that in this context as well.
Yeah. So first of all, congratulations, Megan.
Thank you.
And yeah, so this is another distinctive feature of Dolor practice as a whole. So we just talked about the repetition aspect. That's a different thing in this type of training. And another one is really not assuming that people all need to learn at the same pace. So we want to find a strategy where we're always adapting the training to whatever skill capacity the trainee is currently at. So in less jargony ways, basically, if something is too easy, let's make it harder. If something is too hard, let's make it easier. You get the drift. So the way we do that is we use something called the Deliberate Practice Reaction Form, which is on our book as well. It comes with the book, and it's a very simple thing. It's a 2-question process that after a couple of the client statements, after you've tried some round of practice, there's a sign in the book saying, now do the reaction form, right? And so now we're just going to take stock of where we're at and where should we go next. So Megan, if you could you tell us from 0 to 10, how challenging was it to fulfill those 3 skill criteria we said at the beginning during these past rounds of practice, from 0 to 10?
You know, I kind of erring on this side of like closer to easier. So maybe like a 2.
Great. So you have a 2 here, right? Which would be here on the easy range, like you were saying. Now, second, I just want to ask you something. Did you notice any reactions on the good challenge or too hard columns? And before you answer, I want to be explicit about something. You do not, and I would say should not, share specific reactions. You know, we don't want you to need to disclose any personal reactions, right? Us knowing your inner world isn't going to help you a lot. You knowing your inner world will help you a lot, right?
Yeah.
So we just want to take stock. If you could just take a moment and see the reactions here in the good challenge and in too hard column, can you just let us know, did you have any of them in the good challenge and any on the too hard as you were practicing?
I had a little bit on the good challenge, but none on the too hard. Perfect.
So why do we do this? This one is a more, let's say, technical assessment, and this is a more intrapersonal assessment. And both, we want to pay attention to both, right? Because something might be very technically easy, but you could be freaking out inside in terms of your reactions. And we want to pay attention to that and respect that. And the opposite, you can think that something might be very hard technically, but feel, you know, basically no reactions. So we want to include both of those in adapting practice to you. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So based on your responses, you had some reactions, but for the most part, it seemed like it was very manageable. And also it seems like it was an easy challenge in the technical side, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's the difficulty assessment. That would mean as an adjustment that we can proceed to the next difficulty level. Meaning, if it's an easy exercise for you right now, let's make it a little bit harder. Okay. Right? That would mean basically continuing to other client statements that are designed in the book to be at a different level challenge, to be a bit harder. Right? If you had said that it was a good challenge, like a 5, 6, maybe even like 7, we would say, let's just repeat the same client statements. Let's give you a chance to just go over these again one more time, right? And if you had said, actually, it's overwhelming, it's too hard, I'm still not getting it, we would actually find ways to tailor practice down and make it a bit easier, right? So again, this is a distinctive feature of Deliberate Practice, is always trying to tailor practice to where you're at. I also want to go back to a comment you made, Megan, because I think it's really relevant, is that each of these client statements, you could, of course, do a lot of different things with them, and you can go in different directions, and they would all, many of them would be very clinically valuable, right? The benefit of forcing ourselves to stay with the particular skill we're focused on is that it's really building this sense of differentiating, almost at a bodily level, how it feels to be doing one skill versus a different one.
So I think I want to thank our 2
brave
volunteer, yes, therapist and client, Zoe and Megan. So thank you so much. It's really valuable to have you actually try it and demonstrate it and show us how it's done. So, and you did a great job, both of you.
Thank you.
So
thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.